Hi there. This is Clyde again. Oh gosh, keep this down in front of me, shouldn't I? It's K1BSZ again. Hi, good evening. Good Friday evening. Just woke up from a nap. I've been getting a few emails about maybe I should do a little skit here on amplifiers. Some people call them yamplifiers or, or amplifiers, that sort of stuff. Well, anyways, okay, let's get a little serious here. All right. Amplifiers, external power amplifiers. Now, the ones I've had in the past, I've had the let's try that again. Amp Supply LA1000, which uses sweep tubes. Uses the 6LQ6. Uses 4 of them sweep tubes. They're cheap and expensive tubes. An amplifier that uses sweep tubes is, they're not rated for too much power. Probably 500-600 watts the most. And and sometimes manufacturers will will build an amplifier, and it'll say kilowatt amplifier. Well, it ain't a kilowatt. No way. Not when it's running 120 volts. 120 volts. Well, it may be running like 15 amps on the power line going into the amp. But using 6LQ6 tubes, no, it ain't gonna. It's just a marketing scheme, You know how some manufacturers are. They put something on their front of their front of their equipment makes it sound big, so you sell more of them. That's all it is. So then Amatron. The other one I had was an Amatron AL80A. That's a nice amp. Heavy, rugged, built to last. Now those were built before MFJ took over. And I'm not saying that MFJ is a bad company. They make some good stuff. I've got some good products here from MFJ are good. I've had a few things that didn't work out very well, but we won't get into that. Amplifiers. Okay. Now you got your basic station, you got your transceiver. Okay, and then you have your tuner, your transmat tuner, and then your transmission line. And of course your tuner has your SWR meters in there, watt meter, and it's basically the same thing as an amplifier. Got the basic kind of controls on it, but it just doesn't increase any power. It just matches your antenna to your transmitter. Okay, it's a go between. Okay, so you're working the pileups and you can't get through. So you say, well, I've got to have an amplifier. All right, so what kind of an amplifier are you going to get? Well, there's several in the market. The best you can get are probably the the alpha amplifiers. They're expensive, but you ever seen one of those ads where they take it was quite a few years ago. They took a brick. They took a brick and put it on a telegraph key. They turned the amplifier on. I think it was the model number. I think it was the 374. It's got 3 tubes in it. 38874 tubes in it. Triode tubes. And they had a dummy load, one of those air-cooled dummy loads. And they had it in a room at the factory. So they turned it on and they loaded it up to a certain frequency and put a brick on the key, shut the lights off, walked out the door, locked the door. Then they had a contest. How long is that thing going to last at full 1500 watts with a key down? Is it going to burn up? Well, it didn't. It lasted, God, I think it lasted like 36 days before they took the brick off. But it just didn't. From start to finish, it was putting out 1,500 watts. And some of those amplifiers will put out a lot more. They will. Oh, yeah. And I know of a few out there that, let's put it this way. I know of a few people. Yeah, I've had a few of them big ass ones that put out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how do you tune an amplifier? Oh, basic thing. Your plate and your load. Your plate and your load. It's basic stuff. So what I do when I tune my amplifier? Okay. So let's say if I'm going 20 meter CW. So what I do is I preset the controls on my tuner. Go to CW, press the key down, and watch my meter. SWR meters and everything. Get the lowest SWR. Find out what your output power from your transmitter is. So the way I used to set up my AL80A is I ran it so that the grid current, idling grid current, was extremely low. That's one thing to worry about, is the idling grid current. I think the maximum grid current is 50 milliamps. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure if my memory serves it right. Okay, so what I would, I run it on 220 volts. You can run them 120, which is fine, but they draw a lot more current. If you put them on 220 volts, you're only talking like maybe 10 amps at the most. So it draws 10 amps. Okay. And it makes the amplifiers run a lot better. You don't have to work quite so hard. So to drive the amplifier at maximum power, 1,000 watts on phone and 800 watts on CW. So you don't want to really drive them that hard. So don't drive a lot of drive power. The manuals will tell you like 90 watts maximum for full output. Well, don't drive them that hard. If you don't drive them hard, they'll last longer. It's just like a car. I mean, you don't go down the highway with your foot right to the floor and hold it right there and pass everything in the left-hand lane. You just don't do that. Only cops do that. So you let up on the throttle. So you run it at. I used to run mine. I think I used to put in about 30 watts, 30, 40 watts. And that was fine. I'd get out maybe 600 watts. That's fine. That was enough. That's enough to work the world. You don't want to sound like a badass amplifier like some people used to. Did I say that? Uh, but anyways, yeah, so running about, 30, 40 watts. And you get everything all tuned up. So you go to CW. You press the key down. You're going to find a clear frequency. Always find a clear frequency, low SW. Press the key down. Then watch your meters. And just tune for maximum output. You start with your plate, go to your load. Just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Until you get the maximum output. And if it goes up to like 700 watts, back it down a little bit. Just crank it down, crank the drive power down a little bit. You don't need all that much anyway. So you crank that down, There's a thing called ALC. There's an ALC line that goes from your transceiver to the amplifier. That it's called automatic load control, ALC. And and then there's I think God, I haven't used an amp. You know how long it's been since I've used an amplifier? It's been about almost 20 years. God, it's been that long? Holy shit! It's a long time. But that's before I sold my house. But anyways, your ALC, I mean, it keeps it from going crazy. And there's God, I think my memory serves is like a bias supply or something like that. I don't know. I'm making this video from memory. And ain't a hell of a lot up here. There's some up there, but not a lot. But if you don't need an amplifier, you don't need an amplifier. I don't need an amplifier. I run all PSK and all that sort of stuff. Digital modes. You don't need an amp for that. I know guys that run 800 watts on FT8 and on PSK. They don't need all that. No, these digital modes are made for low power. They're not made for a kilowatt. You don't use a kilowatt if you're gonna break a pile up on 20-meter phone or CW. Other than that, you don't need an amplifier. But sometimes you do. But anyway. But it's so you get all your settings all taken care of on your your say if you run a 530 SP or something that a hybrid radio that you got to tune yourself. It's not all broadbanded like most rigs are today. I mean, back in the day when I first got a ham radio, you had to tune it. Dip the plate currents and then increase the grid. Increase the grid and then increase this. And dip that and blah blah blah. Going back and forth. Had this. Back in the day, it had what they call a spot. It's not a dog. It's equipment. But you put a signal on and you listen for the signal on the receiver and you tune the transmitter to the Good God. By the time you get all done, the DX station be gone. So I didn't worry about it. But anyways. But you get everything all put together. You get all your controls all preset and all what's supposed to be done, what's supposed to be done. Like, so then you switch your amplifier, let it warm up. And then you go on low power and you tune it up. Get it all tuned up, it's a couple hundred watts output. Then you get ready to destroy the atmosphere. Put the key right down. Crank up the output power up to about 60 watts there, boy. And tune them meters right up so the watt meter goes up to 800 watts. There you go, buddy. Let's show them bastards over there in Russia who's boss. There you go. You swing your beam around. You hear this guy in Central Asia. Teku, 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 teku. Digit UA1ZZ, UA1Z QSN. So I said, I'll fix him. So you hit the microphone key down there. And you hear that big, heavy duty click. This is Kilowatt Alpha 1, Bravo Sierra Zulu. QSL, click. Kilowatt Alpha 1, Bravo Sierra Zulu, you're 2x2. What? No, actually, they come back and they give you a good report. They really do. When I had my amplifier at home, I had two of them. I had the the amatron AL88, and also had an Alpha 76PA, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. And boy, I'd flip them things right on. As soon as I came through the door, everything come on. Have the amplifiers on there, and, swing that big 6-element tri-band beam right towards the southwest. I'll fix them Australians, boy. I like them. Make them stand up and take notice. Boy, I tell you, I put out a signal like you wouldn't believe. Oh yeah, I knew how to do it, and had a lot of fun doing it. But you really, really got to be careful. Make sure your grounding is really good, you know, and you know, and and make sure you get a low pass filter. You don't want to bother your neighbors and stuff. Make sure you get a good low pass filter, and just make sure everything is working right, you know. But once again, if you don't need an amplifier and you can get through the pileups and stuff, I mean, if you've been to ham rail, you ask some of these old timers that don't use an amplifier, and they don't need one because they know how to get the DX and stuff without an amplifier. They know how to tune the radio so that they can get the DX and stuff. They don't tune right on frequency. They just go off a little bit. That's how I would get it. Get a lot of these DX stations. Is I get tuned off the frequency just a little bit, just enough so my voice sounds a little high pitched, and then they come right back to me, just like that every time. Come right back to you. Or if you're on CW, you tune off the frequency just a little bit, because if they hear a signal that's just a little bit higher in amplitude, they say, "Oh, we're gonna get that guy," before he flies off the charts there. So, little tricks like that. But if you need an amplifier, then get one. But I'll tell you, it's a big expense too. You know, they ain't cheap. Don't get a cheap one either. Get something that's it's hefty. What's gonna 300/500Z in it, or a 4-1000A, or a pair of 3-500s. Or if you really want to go full bore, get one of those Enrons that are from Australia. They get a pair of like equivalent to the 3CX 3000s. That's 6,000 watts. Oh yeah, over there they don't care how much power you run. I knew of a ham down in Grenada, and this is no baloney. I knew of a ham down there in Grenada, and some of you out there in Raleigh, you know who I'm talking about. This guy had a monster station, and this guy used to put out some power. And I'll tell you, in the morning, on 20 meters in the morning, back when the sunspots were good, I mean, I'd have my beam right towards the east, right towards Europe, and he'd be off the side of that beam. He'd be 30 over S9. I'd turn my beam towards him, and he'd be like 60 over, and he'd be the only one you could hear in the United States. No, you couldn't hear anybody else. You hear Europe, but you couldn't hear anybody else. He's the only one you can hear here. It's wow, unbelievable. Yeah. So let me tell you, uh, amplifiers are good in a certain place, but if they're abused, they can be dangerous and they can be expensive. So, anyways, like I said, be careful with them. Make sure your primary rig is all tuned up properly. Make sure the SWR is low. Don't use a lot of driving power. You don't need to run them hard. And just watch your meters and keep tuning them till you get the proper output. And don't overdrive them. Just don't overdrive them. Keep the driving power to the amplifier low. Keep that grid current down low. and it'll last you a long time. Okay. With that being said, happy DXing. We'll see you on the bands, and don't forget, I'm on PSK every morning on 20 meters. And have a holiday. Yeah. Try that again. Happy holidays and stay safe, my friends. Drive fast, drink milk.